All right, everyone, we have a big story that just dropped at this point, I guess, a couple hours ago. And apparently, we're going to be getting a new Lord of the Rings film. I don't know if it's a sequel, I don't know if it's a prequel. I just opened up the browser right now and I saw all this. I've been busy working on a ton of stuff all day. But this is coming from Variety. Warner Bros. To release new Lord of the Rings movie, The Hunt for Gollum. In 2026, Peter Jackson to produce and Andy Serkis to direct. I imagine also star in as Gollum, as Schmeagol, the precious. Warner Bros. Released the first of its new batch of live-action Lord of the Rings films in 2026, which will focus on Andy Serkis' Gollum. Original Lord of the Rings trilogy filmmaker Peter Jackson and his partners Fran Walsh, Philip Aboyans are producing the movie and will be involved every step of the way, Warner Bros. Discovery CEO David Zaslav said during earnings call Thursday. The project is currently in the early stages of script development. We'll see if it even happens. From writers Walsh and Boyans, along with Phoebe Gittins and Artie Papandopoulos, and will explore storylines yet to be told and have not been told, I imagine, because they don't exist. In a press release from Warner Bros. Later Thursday morning, the studio revealed that the working title for the film is Lord of the Rings: The Hunt for Gollum. It'll be directed by and stars Serkis in his iconic titular role. The film will be executive produced by Ken Kamins, Serkis, and Imaginarium Jonathan's Cavendish. And Warner Bros. First announced in February 2023 that the newly installed studio leaders, Mike DeLuca, Pam Abdi, had brokered a deal to make multiple films based on the beloved J.R.R. Tolkien books. And of course, you know, we also have that War of the Rohirrim animated movie coming out later this year, I believe early December, which I'm actually looking forward to that, I have to admit. Everything that I've heard about that actually sounds interesting. But with this particular film, I don't know. I don't know. So is this going to be more of an in-between film? I mean, details are kind of sketchy at this point as to, I mean, we're clearly going to be focusing on Gollum. It's not going to take place after, you know, the Lord of the Rings. It's not going to take place after Return of the King. I would guess, since, you know, it involves like the hunt for Gollum. So is this in the period when like Gandalf was trying to find Gollum, along with Aragorn's assistance, you know, Strider's assistance, you know, during the events of the Fellowship of the Ring, before, you know, Frodo and Sam and Pippin and Merry, they leave the Shire. Is that what this is going to be focusing on? I don't really need to see that. I mean, listen, I think the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, both the theatrical versions and also the extended versions, I think that is one of the best trilogies of all time. Certainly one of the best modern trilogies of all time, and I think probably an argument can be made that it is the best trilogy of all time. Certainly one of my favorites. You know, I think Peter Jackson did a fantastic job adapting those three books. The Hobbit, which I love the original Hobbit novel. I think it's fantastic, and I was so excited that they were going to adapt that. But then we heard it was going to be turned into 2 movies. It was like, why? It's literally the shortest book, I think, in the entire series. Like, what's the point? And then they went ahead and like, oh, we're gonna make it a trilogy. It's like, no, please don't. And then of course Peter Jackson came back, who I thought at the time, I think a lot of us like, oh well, that's the natural choice. You have him come back, and, you know, despite some kind of iffy films he made in between Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. But yeah, outside of maybe a few sequences in those movies, stuff with Gollum in between Bilbo, I thought Martin Freeman was very well cast as Bilbo Baggins. So much about those movies just did not work for me, and I found them incredibly disappointing. And I mean, even after The Hobbit, I mean, you had the Amazon, you know, their show, I don't remember what it's even called. It was so forgettable. Rings of Power. It was a struggle to get through that. I mean, Lord of the Rings as a franchise right now is in a weird place. But I mean, you know, I don't know what other material you're gonna take from. You know, although I am really excited for the animated movie War of the Rohirrim. Again, everything that's been described is going to be a 2D animated movie. It's like, oh, that sounds really cool. But outside of that, you know, I mean, you've covered everything. You covered the original books. You covered the trilogy, of course, and you have the obviously The Hobbit, you know, which came before the trilogy. But now you're taken from the appendices and the Silmarillion and things and some of these extra materials that it's not like told out as a narrative. And so you're just kind of picking what you want and then having your way with it. I don't know. everything about this just has me. I mean, everything right now, Lord of the Rings, it just hasn't been very satisfying. And this project, this announcement, I can't say I'm really interested in it. Despite I'm a big fan of Andy Serkis, certainly as an actor. Loved him as Gollum, loved him as Caesar, and Planet of the Apes movies. Did such a great job in those. Most recently coming off an Andor, he did such a great job in that. As a director, what I've seen of his stuff, I haven't been too impressed. Honestly, I don't think anyone was going crazy about Venom: Let There Be Carnage, and even Peter Jackson himself. I think he put everything he had into those Lord of the Rings movies, and he did an amazing job, obviously. But then everything afterwards, I know there's fans of King Kong. I'm not one of them. His King Kong, I should say. Did not care for that film. Lovely Bones, no. Felt like his attempt to do something like Heavenly Creatures again, it just did not work. And then he went back to the Hobbit trilogy, and I feel like that really burned him out. And so I know he's been doing documentaries for the last few years, I suppose. I haven't seen any of those. And, I don't even know who I would even pick to helm this franchise, even if it should be helmed at this point, But, Warner Bros. Wants to capitalize. They want to capitalize on these properties that they own, and Lord of the Rings just happens to be one of those franchises, at least to whatever extent they own the material. I know certain people own different parts of the appendices, some relate, et cetera, et cetera. But, yeah, to be perfectly honest, I'm just not really excited for this whatsoever. I mean, we're going to get them no matter what, but the only thing I can do now is hope for the best. Hope that they actually deliver something that's really good, that's great, and that surprises me. Please prove me wrong. I would love to see some great live action Lord of the Rings material, even though I am looking forward to the animated film More of the Rohirrims. We'll see how that turns out. But what about you guys? How do you feel about this story? I mean, I guess it was announced a little whiles back that they were going to be doing more Lord of the Rings content in some form in the future, movies, TV shows, etc. But I think maybe some of us didn't even believe them. But it looks like it's coming very, very soon. Very, very soon. Less than 2 years at this point. Please, as always, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.